The FBI is investigating a former doctor with USA Gymnastics after dozens of women have come forward alleging that this doctor sexually assaulted them while they were part of the gymnastics teams that went to him for any type of medical care. Now, NBC did a report on this that gives us more detail. And they also say that Dr. Larry Nassar, that's his name, worked with USA Gymnastics for 2 decades before he was quietly fired last year amid what the organization called athlete concerns. Police at Michigan State University, where he also worked, are investigating more than 24 sexual abuse reports filed by former patients, some dating back to the late 1990s. Now, what are the allegations against him? What are the details? What did he allegedly do to these minors in many cases? Well, NBC has those details. Let's take a look.
In a lawsuit filed in California, the gymnast alleges that during exams, Nassar would digitally penetrate her in order to adjust the bones in her hips, performing the procedure without gloves and/or a chaperone, and it was done for Nassar's own sexual gratification. The alleged incidents sometimes took place when the team was on the road, including a trip to China, outside the view of any adults. Manley says he now has 12 clients.
The idea that you would put your hand in the private parts of a prepubescent child because they have a sore back is laughable, and it's sexual assault.
So that was his, not his attorney, the attorney representing the 24 women who have come forward, John Manley, a California attorney. By the way, Nassar's attorney is not the smartest one out there, because apparently he's saying, what? I mean, Nassar never denied using these techniques, such as penetrating these girls. In fact, any allegations that he was performing these procedures for any purpose other than proper medical treatment are patently false and untrue. If someone is having back problems or issues with their hip, you don't digitally penetrate them in order to alleviate the pain. That's not medicine.
And you're not going to get a dozen women coming out and saying, he did it to me on all sorts of different ailments. Like, if it was a really borderline case and it was one person and it was the hip, and you're like, well, I don't see how that has to do with the hip, but maybe. But if he does it to all the different ailments for all the different girls, then perhaps you've got a pattern there. Look, they go to trial, they'll figure it out. But right now, based on the evidence that we have, this just doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good. And I also want to add that in this case, what I find interesting is that these women obviously have nothing to gain from coming forward, right? They're just saying, hey, look, this is what we experienced, and we want to ensure that other young girls don't have the same experience that we do. But what we see in a lot of these cases, including universities that brush allegations of sexual assault and rape under the rug, is that even in this case, USA Gymnastics seemed to do something very similar, at least according to the allegations. There were allegations brought by these young gymnasts over and over again, and they're saying nothing was done to stop it, right? They didn't want the organization to look bad, and so as a result, the organization is also facing a lawsuit. So,
well, I mean, this in the context also of what we saw at Penn State, we can talk about any number of universities. What's the price of winning? Really and truly, what's the price? What is the cost of having those boosters show up and everything? But the fact that you take any sport, there's such a concerted effort to protect these athletes, protect the program, and just sweep everything to the side on the rug. We don't see it. Oh, look at those shiny medals. Oh, look at the trophies. That doesn't make it all worth it. And until we start putting pressure on those people in power and saying, actually, it's definitely not worth it, and we're going to hold you responsible.
So there's two things about that whole protecting their reputation thing, right? So you thought your reputation was more important than the well-being of all those really young girls. So you thought, well, I'm going to leave that doctor in there. I've already had 11 complaints, but let me wait for the 12th complaint and of him doing it again and again and again. Because my reputation is more important than your kids. So that's grotesque. Second of all, if all you cared about was about your stupid reputation, this is so much more damaging to your reputation. But so if you had turned him in on the first complaint, what's the big deal? You caught a doctor who's doing the wrong thing, you turn him in. That's it.
if anything, that shows that you have a willingness to protect the gymnasts regardless of how it might make your reputation look. And you're right, Cenk, it's so short-sighted, right? Trying to brush it under the rug makes it seem like you're protecting your reputation in the moment, but once this information gets out, and it always does, your organization looks even worse, right? And stories like this keep coming out, whether it's, you know, rape on college campuses, rape in the Catholic Church, rape in the Boy Scouts, you know, sexual assault with USA Gymnastics, and it like leads to so much fear for a lot of parents. Do you want your kid to be involved in any sport, any organization? It makes you want to protect them as much as possible and not allow them to be part of these, you know, activities. Like, I don't know, it scares the hell out of me because it could be the most wholesome organization. It seems so wholesome. And then you find out that there are rape allegations. And on top of it, the organization was trying to brush it under the rug.
Well, what you're talking about is a power structure in all of these cases. Everything you just cited off, there's a power structure, right? And all of these things, the perpetrators, very small percentage, right? But they go out and they specifically pick out the most powerless. You know, again, it's an act of, I keep coming back to it, power. Is it humiliation? It's the ultimate act of bullying, if you want to call it out like that. Time and time again, we see it play out, and we're just not using the right words, and you have to start there first.
Yeah.
And then I can't even imagine being these parents. I mean, was that medal worth it? I mean, did your kids say anything to you? Did you make her go back out there?
You know, look, we don't know what the parents knew. I'm going to, of course, assume that they didn't know. Otherwise, I imagine as a parent, I would be more than outraged. But to the coaches and the folks who might have known, including who are the famous coaches?
Let me talk about that for a little bit. So Bella and Martha Caroli, they are among the coaches that are also facing, allegations. Because not only
allegations of a cover-up.
Allegations of a cover-up, not allegations that they sexually assaulted anyone. So let me be absolutely clear about that. But apparently, gymnasts came forward to them, and they allegedly didn't do anything about it. And even more, former gymnasts are claiming that they used abusive tactics in their coaching method as well. So, for instance, the California lawsuit claims that the Carolis created an oppressive, abusive environment at the ranch that included scratching children until they bled, depriving them of food and water, screaming obscenities, and encouraging parents to hit their children. The suit alleges that environment enabled Nasser to groom children by sneaking them food and acting as their friend in order to sexually abuse them. I mean, these are... Look, it shouldn't matter whether you're a woman or a man, right? But these are two women who are being approached by young female gymnasts who are saying that they've been sexually assaulted. And they have the audacity to allegedly brush it under the rug. Like, that gets under my skin so much, right? You have an obligation to protect these girls, and you did the exact opposite. In fact, you abused them yourself, according to these claims. For what? For what? For these medals?
Yes.
Do you feel good about yourself?
But they do. They think that that's normal. So this is a couple that's very famous, the coaches are. Probably the most famous Olympic coaches we have in America. I don't know any other Olympic coaches. I don't follow closely, but I know about them. And yeah, for them, winning is everything. So if I got to make you bleed, literally, that's what I'm going to do. And look, I give coaches wide latitude. When I was a football player in high school, they deprived us of water. We found out later that's really dumb. People get dehydration and some die.
They deprived you of water?
Yeah, of course.
That's so stupid.
Did you grow up in Texas?
No.
That's what they did there.
Yeah. And then we would do 2-a-days in the August heat, right? And they would, work us to the ground, and then if you complained, you were weak and all that stuff. But I believe there should be discipline in sports, and now they're saying that coaches can't make people run laps. That's the opposite extreme, right? But physical abuse is a clear line. It's not that complicated, right? So when it comes to the coaches on the scratching them until they bleed and, putting their well-being in actual danger, that's a line you shouldn't cross. I don't care what you're trying to win.
Absolutely.
And then covering up the sexual allegations is 1,000 times worse. And so that's not any part of coaching where you let the doctor do this to sexually assault the young girls. So there's no excuse for it. You just cared so much more about your reputation. And Anna, you said they get caught every time. They do these days, and even that we don't know. But in the old days, I think they always covered up because they didn't get caught.
There is literally nothing on this planet that matters to me more than protecting someone who comes forward and tells me that they've been sexually assaulted, right? So if anyone had come forward to me for any organization or any company that I worked with and said, hey, this person in the organization is sexually assaulting me, you better believe that I will do anything to protect them and shine a light on what that person is allegedly doing. I don't care about the company's reputation, right? I care about the well-being of others. And these women, if these allegations are true, do not care about the well-being of others. They just care about themselves and winning medals. And that is the most disgusting thing
but
imaginable.
There's a lot of money involved with them maintaining that program, right? And can I just tell you that when I interviewed a militia that hadn't given an interview since 2008, and they're in the film very briefly. They're very mad because they don't like how they're portrayed. Let me tell you what they told me. They flat out denied any of the assaults that they we know that they've carried out. There's lots of evidence. And then they danced around it. It became a political interview. So it's just these people have convinced themselves that it doesn't exist. And we know that that's not true. There could be a mountain of evidence, but because they have something to protect, they will make up any excuse in their heads. So you're absolutely right. I think we're all in agreement. Like that is it's appalling what's happened. As we're watching that story run, all I could think of was Marta Karoli with that team that won the gold medals, and I thought, was it worth it? Oh my God!
For her, I guess it was.
I know. I feel bad that I even contributed to the viewership of this now. But they have a lot of money to protect, and that makes it worth it.
So. Man. That's gymnastics, but it was also true in Penn State with football, college football, right?
Money again.
Yep. And so as long as there's some sort of money and prestige on the line, people will do anything. Podcast the whole 2-hour Young Turks every single day, commercial free. All-Star Tuesdays, Aggressive Progressives, Old School, Post Games, TYT Classics. You get it all with membership. Do it now. TYTnetwork.com/join.